This is Season 7, Episode 133 of the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast.
Sometimes the important thing is not the number of miles you've driven, but what's going on inside your head while driving. The Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast will stimulate your mind and keep you company while on the road. Join us for education, motivation, and inspiration from wherever you may be in our nation. You'll hear roundtable discussions about important information that's impacting our industry. Plus, you'll learn more about new technology, equipment, driving opportunities, safety, and operations. Get driver success and fitness tips to keep you profitable, safe, healthy, as well as entertaining stories from the road. And don't you know, we've all got a few of those. We might be traveling in different directions, but we're all part of one driver community at the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast. With your host, trucker Tim Cicciarelli.
Hey friends, welcome to the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Cicciarelli, otherwise known as Trucker Tim, and thank you so much for letting me sit shotgun with you today. Hope you're having a great day today. We'll do our best to keep you informed and educated as to what's happening at Stevens Transport and hopefully keep you entertained as well. And I'll tell you, coming up, we've got a very special interview with a very special man to kick off our Legends series with the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast. At the beginning of every month, we are going to shine the spotlight on someone who has made an impact at Stevens Transport for quite some time. To become a legend, you have to make a difference, and it requires some longevity as well, too. So for those of you who are thinking about jumping into the transportation and logistics industry, and with Stevens Transport in particular, we have some sage advice coming up with our friend Smokey Adams coming up in just a little bit. Please stick around for this interview. You're going to learn a lot, and he is really a charming man as well. You're going to enjoy spending some quality time with our very first legend, Mr. Smokey Adams. But first, what do you say we kick off this episode as we always do by keeping you informed as to what's happening in real time at Stevens Transport, and say hello to our friends at Paragon Leasing with our buddy Nick Forte on our Stevens Roundtable. This is our Stevens Roundtable, the first segment of every single episode, because it's valuable information in real time that you need to know, things that are happening at Stevens Transport and at Paragon Leasing. And it has been a little while since we've had my friend Nick Forte on the podcast, so that's who's joining us today. Nick, good to see you again, my friend. How you been?
Good, Tim. How are you, sir?
Things are really well, but I understand, you've got some timely information for our drivers, which is why we had to get you on ASAP. So from what I also understand, Nick, is California's at it again, throwing monkey wrenches into everything right now. I'm from California, but we do know it's a little wonky over there on the left coast, and they seem to be making things very difficult for a lot of people, especially for those of us in this industry. So what's happening in California, Nick?
Well, Tim, as you said, California's at it again. So at the beginning of the year, in January, California rolled out a new emissions inspection. So what that is that all the trucks, regardless if you go into California or not, are required to have a biannual emissions inspection. And what does that mean? It means that we're going to have to plug into the truck. We're going to have to look. It's going to download it and send it to California, and they're going to give it a pass or fail. We have to do this every 6 months. So every truck in our fleet has got to have it done twice a year. But it's just not willy-nilly. It's based off the last of your VIN. So you're going to start seeing messages come out from the Road Assist department. Hey, we need to get you in. We've partnered with several companies on the outside. We're doing them on the yard. Basically, every truck that comes to the yard, we're trying to get our grubby little paws on them.
Good.
And, really get this done. As per out on the road, there's a couple different in Fontana, and then also in Arizona, and then in Colorado, we've got some partners. And more truck shops are coming online, like MHCs and the Rushes. It's about a 4 or 5 hour class. You've got to buy the software. You've got to pay a yearly subscription. there's just a lot of little things to get started. And I don't think the OEMs were as clairvoyant as they should have been on this. A lot of us, we've been trying to get it done. It's just going to take a lot of effort, but it's really pertinent. So if you're getting this message, it is basically considered a big deal. It's not something we can just kind of push off to the side. So again, California's at it again, but if you're getting these messages, I needed to make sure everybody understood, this is a big deal. We can't just kind of put our heads in the sand. So we just need everybody's help on it.
All right. So Nick, for our drivers that are listening to this podcast, what's the next step they should take in order to just get compliant as soon as possible?
Well, the thing that you're going to have to do is just pay attention to your platform science messages. We're going to notify you when it needs to be done. And then at that point in time, you can work with the Road Assist department here at Paragon. We'll get you scheduled in. Or if you're coming to the yard, we're checking them at the safety lane. We're just going to do it and move on. So make life easy. Ideally, I don't want to really mess up anybody's planned events or schedules, but we have to get this done. This is a citable thing with California, and we have to get ahead of it. But, the big thing is the guidance is going to come from Road Assist, and we'll work with you. What we're finding is we've got mobile units that are coming to the truck stops out on the road to do it there. A couple of key indicators. If your truck's had a check engine light on within the previous, I'd say 5 to 7 days, you're going to fail. If it has a check engine light, it will fail. So if you're getting a message from Road Assist, those are two of the things that you're going to have to kind of indicate with them. Hey, I've got a check engine light because that truck is not going to pass. We're going to have to get it to a dealer, have it looked at, get the check engine light off. Then you got to run 5 duty cycles, which means you got to heat the engine up and cool it off 5 times before you can run the test. So there's some parameters on it. It's just not plug in and go. If we've got a malfunction going on, it's going to fail. So we've got to get that rectified.
All right. One last question, Nick, before we let you go. What if some of our drivers listening to this are like, yeah, but I don't go to California. That's not part of what I do. Does it affect them as well?
It does. Regardless if you go to California or not, they can put a thing on the license of the truck. So it can impose a civil penalty on us as well. They can write us tickets each month that it's not compliant. It doesn't matter if you go into California or not. It has to be done as part of our global fleet requirement as being a transport partner in and out of California.
All right. So basically everybody. we got to do it.
Everybody.
All right. Nick Forte, Paragon Leasing, thank you so much for letting us know this timely information, and we'll try to make this process as smoothly as possible for not only our drivers, but also for everybody there at Paragon Leasing. Good to see you again, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it.
Ever wondered what it's like to drive across the country and get paid to see America's breathtaking landscapes? Welcome to life as a team driver with Stevens Transport. The life of a trucker can sometimes feel solitary, but with team driving, you're never alone. Let's dive into how teaming up with another driver can transform your trucking career. So what exactly is team driving? Simply put, it's when 2 drivers share the responsibilities of operating the same truck. This allows for continuous travel and efficient delivery. Federal regulations require solo drivers to be off-duty for at least 10 consecutive hours after 11 hours of driving. Team driving, however, maximizes productivity by alternating driving shifts, cutting down on overall trip times. By working in shifts, team drivers can cover over 5,500 miles a week. That's more than double what solo drivers can achieve, leading to more priority loads and higher earnings. Efficiency is key. With 2 drivers, tasks like loading and unloading become quicker and easier. Plus, you'll earn more per mile. One of the greatest perks? You get to choose your driving partner, whether it's a close friend or a new acquaintance. Having a partner on the road makes those long hauls more enjoyable. And what about rest? Team drivers sleep in comfy bunk beds while the truck is moving, allowing for nearly non-stop travel without sacrificing sleep. Safety is another major advantage. With 2 drivers, there's an added layer of oversight to ensure committed safety. So, if you're ready to take your trucking career to the next level, consider team driving with Stevens Transport. It's the perfect blend of companionship, efficiency, and increased earnings. Explore the benefits of team driving and start your adventure today with Stevens Transport. Apply now and join a team that drives you to success.
Now more than ever, truck drivers are true American heroes. The men and women who literally keep America moving by delivering goods across the country. Being a professional driver is a rewarding, financially lucrative, long-term career filled with exciting adventures. A career where you'll never have to worry about job security. If you have your CDL and keep it up, it will sustain you for the long haul. You can see the country, serve your country, and provide a good life for your family. Whether you'd rather haul on a dedicated route or lane, or prefer working with one specific customer, if you want to own your business, we have a program that sets you up for success with all the tools and support you need. We've got opportunities in our intermodal rail division and have programs to help military veterans transition into trucking careers. We have second generations of drivers whose parents have driven for Stevens, who then trained their children and are now truck drivers. Some are even small fleet owners. So, whatever your dream is, you can achieve it right here at Stevens. If you're looking for a company with a 40-plus year track record that's never had a layoff and just had the largest pay increase in company history for both new and experienced drivers, Stevens Transport has you covered. We offer the finest tools and technology and provide our drivers with the best state-of-the-art equipment on the market. Our infrastructure will support you both on and off the road. As a driver for Stevens, you become part of our family. Many companies throw the word family around. We're family-owned, family-run, and family-driven. Our 40-plus years of success is built on family. At Stevens, you're not just a number. Our drivers are part of our extended family, and we recognize and honor them every chance we get. If you want to be among the top income earners among professional drivers, if you want great benefits, if you want to have every type of driving opportunity at your fingertips, if you want to be part of a company that will stand behind you and ensure your success, come join the Stevens Transport family today and become an American hero. So, what are you waiting for? Take the first step toward your future career with the best trucking company in America. Become part of the Stevens Transport family today by calling our recruiting department at 1-800-333-8595 or apply online at stevenstransport.com.
Welcome back to the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast. My name is Tim Cicciarelli, otherwise known as Trucker Tim, and thanks so much for letting me sit shotgun with you today. Hey, listen, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, download, or follow this podcast from whichever podcast platform you're enjoying it from. We are everywhere. This podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, Amazon Music, you name it. If it's a podcast platform, the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast is there. Please hit that follow, subscribe, and download button. It will help us to continue to bring you all the information you need to know what's going on at Stevens Transport. And for those of you who might be looking for a new career in transportation, and we hope this podcast will help you become familiar with the culture at Stevens, because we would love to have you become a part of our team. Here in Season 7, we have a brand new segment that I am very excited about. We have, over 130 episodes of the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast. And throughout this time, I've had the great pleasure of interviewing, it seems like mostly everybody here in this building at Stevens Transport and tons of drivers. And when you get that type of access to that many employees and colleagues and staff members, there's names that keep popping up from time to time because of the impact they make on the company, because of the heritage they have with this company. So there are a handful of people that we want to spotlight and honor in our brand new Legends series. Legends of Stevens Transport, and it is my honor to welcome our very first legend. He's been on the podcast just once before, and have him join us here on the very first segment of our Legends series. I'm talking about Vice President of Operations, Mr. Smokey Adams. Smokey, good to see you again, buddy.
Hey, you too, Tim. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
When we had you in here about 6 months ago or so, and it was just a delightful conversation, and you informed us as to some of the new security measures that were taking place here at Stevens Transport. But after you left, I thought we could have spent a whole other hour with Smokey. He has so many stories. So legend status, 35 years we're coming up on for you, buddy. I mean, that defines a legend in my book. How's it feel to be considered a legend?
Well, first off, I'm not that old, okay?
I know. Yeah. And you told me earlier this is your second career. I don't believe it, because whatever's in the water at your house, what you're drinking, I want some of it because you look good, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I was military. I spent about 8 years in the Air Force. I kind of joined out of high school, enlisted, and, we had a great time. I met my wife and, had my children through the military. And, man, my career was amazing. I love the military.
Which branch?
I was in the Air Force, and I just absolutely loved it. I got an opportunity to spend time in Colorado, and, it is amazing. I'd barely been out of the state of Texas up to that point.
So you're born in Texas, lived here most of your life at that point. Yeah.
Never, I barely went to Oklahoma or Louisiana or anything.
Which part of Texas?
Right here in Dallas.
Yeah.
In the Dallas area. Graduated out of Lancaster, which is just south of Dallas. But anyway, I joined the military, and the funny thing is, I rode an airplane, a taxi, and a bus for the very first time in my life on the very same day. And that's when I took off for boot camp.
Wow. Welcome to the world, Smokey. I mean,
it was a rude awakening getting off that plane down there, with those DIs. They were tough people. Man. Anyway, I had a great career going, and, I was promoted early, and before I got out, my supervisors had put me in for a step promotion, which means they just give you an extra stripe without testing for it. But
without testing for it, just based on performance. It was a performance-based situation. And but I thought, well, I want my kids to kind of grow up in an environment where they can get, their future, more seated to meet, understand their grandparents, and just have some roots.
Just have some roots.
Tough to do that when you're a military kid, or brat, as they call it, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I grew up as a trucker's son.
It's in your blood.
Yeah. And so, when I was in the military, I started going to school and studying computers because, of course, back in the day, that's well before the cell phones and, everything.
So when you say back in the day, what year-ish are we talking about here, Smokey? Give us a little.
Then I would be telling my age out
here. Come on, man.
I got out in 1988.
In 1988. Gotcha. Got out. And you were in the service for how many years total?
I was in there about 8 years.
About 8 years.
Went in and at the end of 80. Yeah. And I got out in 88. Mm-hmm. So we was in California and came back here and I was, after going to school and really studying computers, I really wanted to get into that career. I wanted to be programming.
What a perfect time, too, to do that, right at the introduction of computers to the world at that point, really.
That's exactly right. It was really taking off, and there was I studied COBOL was my primary language, and of course, that's non-existent.
See, I'm old enough to shake my head and know what you're talking about, too, as well.
That's an ancient language.
It really is.
So I studied that, and I took a small job at a trucking company over in Rockwall for, a couple of years, and there no longer. But every time I would drive by, and back in the day, it was Interstate 80 and I'd go by Stevens Transport, and I'd see all those beautiful trucks and trailers, and it was amazing. And I thought, seeing that I'm not, in the computer field, but, this trucking thing just seems to happen.
I think it's cool, too, that you were not a driver.
No,
but you saw those trucks and you're like, okay, that's a lure it's a lure for a lot of our drivers. We interview them to this day. They see those trucks like, how do I get one of those?
I know. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. But even back in the day, it was one of the lures for you.
They were beautiful. Back then we had the Stevens Blue.
Yeah.
And Napa Auto Parts, they actually had a color called Stevens Blue.
Get out of here.
I'm serious.
How about that?
It's amazing.
See, that's something only a legend's going to tell us. I've been doing this podcast for years and have never heard that before.
It's amazing to see that. And then, when the fleet converted over to black trucks, which are just drop dead gorgeous anyway.
No question.
Back then we had a fleet full of T600s and those long-nosed babies, they were beautiful, and growing up around trucks, kind of in high school, I worked my way through as a lumper, for my dad.
What's a lumper?
A lumper is, just handling freight. I was loading and unloading his trailer, and I thought I was, cutting a fat hog, you might say. And my dad's over there laughing because he's got cheap labor in there.
That's right. It's his kid.
That's exactly right.
Something our drivers don't have to do, by the way, which is pretty nice. No lumping for them.
That's right. It is amazing. You come a long way.
Sure.
Because the pallet jacks, if I remember, weren't too many electric ones at the time.
You must have some
guns manual.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was, I was working over, and I kept driving by, frequently. I looked and I thought that'd be amazing, to work there. And so I dropped by and, dropped off my resume.
Back in the day when you actually did that, handed them a piece of paper and told them all about yourself, right?
That's exactly
Not anymore.
Right. Not anymore. There was no such thing as an online thing. It was face.
You had to go in there face to face, shake a hand, and hand off that resume. Yeah. That takes courage too.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it was something. I had an opportunity to interview with Mike Ritchie.
Yeah,
and obviously, he's still here. And there was another individual there that brought me in. His name was Jim Frank, and Jim was an amazing guy. He was running their operation at the time. Matter of fact, he and I to this day are still very good friends. And
awesome.
I just talked to him a couple of weeks ago. So
worked together a long time.
Yeah. He, he left and he became the president of another, trucking company, and he recently retired. But just an amazing guy. He was one of the early influences, in
for you?
My career for me.
In which way?
Well, just the way he ran his operation, with the amount of detail that he looked at and the intensity that he brought to the table, and the expectations were high. He was about business.
Yeah,
and I really, really respected that a lot. And because honestly, the way to get anywhere is to put your best foot forward and show folks what you can do. Mm-hmm. Because if you can put your foot forward and you can make things happen, people notice that. You
mean things like take initiative as well,
exactly,
too, right?
Absolutely.
Not just work hard and smart and efficiently and effectively, but take initiative on things. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. If somebody is struggling in an area, help them.
Yeah.
Help them up. And you don't need a recognition for that. You just need to get in there and get the job done.
It's just what you do.
Everybody is pulling in the same direction makes the company successful. Mm-hmm. And that was my philosophy from the time I set foot. And, it's funny because when I went to work here, it was over in Interstate 80.
Yeah.
And, walked in, and of course all we had was a PC. We didn't have this, monster AS400 with innovative software and the tracking and technology, man. We were just
APC one.
Hey, that's it. And, it was amazing. And I sat down as a Southeast dispatcher. That was my job. And there was a guy, I'll never forget him. His name is Kevin Coulahan. And he was training me. So he sat down with me about 8:00 that morning, and we were kind of working over the system, and I wasn't familiar, just kind of learning. Well, he went to lunch, and I laugh about it, but I hadn't seen him since. He just never came back.
Day one.
Yeah, no, he came back, but he didn't come back to sit with me. That's what I mean. I had about 4 hours worth of training.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, here we go. Just put me in the deep end and let me figure out how to swim.
That's how it was done.
That's the way
it was done. Yeah, or anything at that time, really.
Yeah.
It's sink or swim, man.
I know, that's exactly right. So, I worked in the Southeast, and then in 1992, we moved into this wonderful facility.
Yeah.
It is absolutely amazing here.
And here we are several decades later, and it still is.
It's gorgeous.
It's a beautiful compound.
Absolutely it is. And it's grown and been handled with such care.
Yeah.
And it's just been amazing. So I was here, part of the team that moved us over here. Mm-hmm. That was in 1992. It was Memorial Weekend of 1992 when we.
That must have been really exciting.
It was.
Yeah.
It was, because we came from a small facility. Of course, we were still a small company.
Yeah.
When I went to work here, we had if I'm remembering right, about 300 trucks. That's it.
Really?
That's it. 300 trucks.
Wow.
You know, and I thought, man, this is something else. So we moved into this monster facility.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't fill up a whole lot.
Wow. Mr. Aaron had a vision, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And, you know, when we got over here, I was started out as a Southeast dispatcher even here. And they moved me over on the meat desk. And I cut my teeth was what I always kind of tell people in the meat.
Yeah.
And it was just something I was drawn to it.
Yeah. You liked that switch. Yeah.
Because on the meat, a lot of times you had to hurry up and wait, basically, kind of like the military.
Yeah.
You wait for them to get you loaded, and then you got to get there. And
you were prepped for that then.
Yeah, I was. And I just kind of took to that. And, you know, I had a great start of my career, you know, handling, you know, it was IBP at the time. Of course, Tyson, you know, had bought IBP, but IBP was our primary and, you know, handled all the plants. And that was back when you dealt with them on the phone. You were the coordinators. You get to know them. You get to know their personalities and the volumes. And I had some of the most amazing drivers ever. I'm just telling you, to this day, I still have people that, you know, I dispatched and knew and dealt with. You know, you're talking almost 35 years later that I'm still friends with.
So tell us what you mean by the most amazing drivers ever. Now, we all have an idea, but in your mind, Smokey, what made them so amazing?
Well, for lack of a better term, they toted the mail.
That's what we need to hear.
They made things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I could pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah.
You know, and I say, here's where I'm at. You know, they're running behind getting this loaded. This load needs to be there. I need you to operate your logbook, you know, to make things happen. Don't let 1 minute go to waste on this thing. Mm-hmm. Customer needs the freight. And I can tell you that I've heard so many times the guys say, Smokey, I got this.
That's what you need to hear. What a tight team.
You know, yeah, it was amazing. And then they get, you know, down the road to make it happen. And I think one of the most proudest moments I had, you know, early on in my career was we received IBP Carrier of the Year. It's the only time we ever received it, even to this day.
Wow.
As Carrier of the Year. And that plaque that stands in the executive suite.
Yeah, where all the hardware is. Yeah.
Listed as 1992 is when that happened. And I was so proud of that.
You walk by and shine it up from time to time.
No, but you know, I just remember, you know, all the people that pulled together to make that happen. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, for me, the drivers, the people that supported that, the driver managers, you know, they control all those people that were associated with that. They just all pulled in the same direction and made it happen. And looking back on it, it was just a great moment, you know, for me. It was kind of an accomplishment. Yeah. You know, to know that I was a part of that.
And still the only one.
Yeah.
Too.
And then you look now and you think, you know, the Stevens Transport Awards and, you know, and the decorations that they've received and accolades from the customers over the years and a lot of what they've accomplished has been just absolutely amazing. And for me, the company was 12 years old at that time.
And here we are at the time of this recording. I think we're going on our 45th year, right? So 12 years old at the time.
Yep, that's right.
And already here in this building.
Yes.
And with a big vision, like we said earlier, with Mr. Aaron, and it came to fruition.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. I'm going to tell you, sharp as a tack.
And you still, to this day, he's your direct supervisor. Is that
he
correct?
is. That's right.
Yeah.
I support him on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. Whatever he needs, I'm there for him.
Yeah.
You know, research wise or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That's what I always tell him. Put me in, coach.
Put me in, coach.
Wherever you need me, that's where I'm going to go.
That's what we want to hear. Now, listen, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'd love to hear more about Mr. Aaron, who he is, not only as a genius businessman, but also who he is as a person. Can you share some of that with us?
He's got one of the most generous hearts, you know, of any person that I've really ever met, and I can tell you, he's very emotional sometimes. You know,
in what way?
Well, for example, when you see people that may have a need or something happens in somebody's life, it affects him in a way. And when he talks about it, he gets kind of a crack in his voice, and you can kind of feel, the lump in his throat, when his heart goes out and, to others and far as their needs go. So he's real compassionate in that way. And he's a generous man. He really is. And I tell you, he is very, very intelligent.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what he's doing. He can take, just a simple report, and he can look at it and project out exactly what it's going to look like in potentially 6 months based on the patterns that it's showing, because he's done that for so long and he's so good at it. So he'll make an adjustment early on in a situation to prevent it from not going where it shouldn't go.
Change the trajectory into the right direction.
Yeah, I've seen him do that so many times. And for me, it's amazing to be a part of that with him, to learn from him, learn directly from him on what he sees and how he does it.
Is it possible for you to kind of pick up on that process, what's going on in his brain to do such amazing things like that?
It's hard, but I'm proof you can teach an old dog new trick.
That's right.
I tried to learn some different things, I try to pay attention.
Yeah.
And, I'm not 100% successful at it all the time, but I do my absolute best.
Well, Smokey, 35 years with the same company, vice president of operations. And I don't want to stop you from continuing to tell your stories, but you talk about a success story. Part of the reason we wanted to introduce this Legend series is so that some of our newer employers, or maybe some of those who have been here for a good chunk of time, a good 10 years or so, this will help them see down the road a little bit and learn from you. Because listen, we have a lot of friends here in the building. We have some time to talk and get to know each other to a degree, but we got work to do. Yeah. And so I don't know how many people have picked your brain about how do you maintain a career? And this is a high pressure job. Let's just not sugarcoat it all.
That's right.
I mean, it's a high pressure job and there are high expectations.
That's right.
Here at Stevens Transport and from Mr. Aaron directly.
That's right.
So what advice or wisdom, in addition to all that you shared already, can you give to people coming into this industry, in particular here at Stevens Transport, new now, or those that might have been here for a little while, and how to just kind of keep your head down, do the right thing, and moving forward so they can be on a Legend series here in another 20, 25 years or so?
That's amazing. Just my advice to them would be, look at the end game on this. Mm-hmm. Look at what you're supporting. You're getting product taken to different parts of the country that feeds families. But the most important thing to do is, look at your drivers. They're people. They have families. They have spouses and children, parents. And down the road, they're getting that product taken care of. Yeah. They sleep in a different parking lot, or location, every night away from home. So you look at them as, what can you do to make their life better? Because you take care of them, they're taking care of you. And ultimately, we take care of the company and we take care of the public for getting what we need to where it needs to be. And that builds confidence with our customers, and that allows them to have confidence in us and grow with us. So it's a great cycle, but it starts with the way your attitude is and how you treat your job and how you treat your drivers to get the job done.
Smokey, in the 7 seasons of the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio podcast, I don't believe I've heard anybody describe the mission of Stevens Transport any better and more eloquently than you just did. And that's what 35 years of experience does for you. That's what direct contact with the founder of our company does for you, and the shade trees of which you will probably never sit under because of the seeds you've planted here over the last 35 years. I hope someday you think about how you've benefited so many people with your time here.
Well, thank you. It's been an amazing journey, and I've got a few more years left in me, I hope.
That's what I wanted to hear because, before we started this interview, Smokey, you mentioned you've got an anniversary coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, I do. It would be March 21st, 2025 will be my 35th anniversary with Stevens Transport.
35 years in the same spot, making a huge difference. Smokey Adams, our very first participant in our Legend series on the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio podcast. Good to see you, my friend.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate you. Always good to see you.
Okay, there she is. Pump the Brakes in episode 133 of the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio podcast. Please remember to follow, subscribe, like, download, and share this podcast from whichever podcast platform you're enjoying it from, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Audible, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We are everywhere, and we would certainly appreciate it if you were to share this with someone else inside the industry so they too can learn about how awesome it is to work at Stevens Transport. My name is Tim Cicciarelli, otherwise known as Trucker Tim, and until next time, please be safe out there, and thank you so much for listening to the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast.